In today's episode, I had a chat with Manzur Mahmood of Inspectech Services. Manzur has been a home inspector for 19 years, and we had a great discussion about how important a home inspection is, especially in today's market, and how the last few years have kind of made it even more necessary for real estate agents and buyers to understand the value of doing a home inspection. We dove a little deeper into what aspects of a home are very necessary to look into. Please share in the comments if there's any other topics you would like us to discuss more about. Hi, Manzur. Today we're going to be talking to my longtime inspector friend Manzur from Inspectech Services. When I was buying real estate to enhance my investment portfolio, Manzur used to help me. Now that I'm a realtor, Manzur has been helping a lot of my clients get a very detailed inspection. So let's dive a little deeper on why home inspections are important, especially in this time in the market. Manzur, why don't you start with telling me a little bit about the trajectory of your career?
Hi Salwa, thank you very much for inviting me here. It's an opportunity to, express the importance of inspection in buying and selling the real estate,
Absolutely.
which is technically the most important and most expensive investment you will ever make.
Yep.
So I am by profession an engineer, mechanical engineer.
Oh, nice.
And I started inspection business back in 2004 when I completed my inspection courses. The first inspection I did was November, I believe, 2004.
Wow.
So that means that puts me almost 19 years
In the business,
in
wow.
the business, and I'm sitting here with you.
And do you remember how bad the house was or good? Was it in great shape at that time?
Well, what I remember was it was a freehold townhouse.
Okay.
And it took me almost 4 hours to complete the inspection. So now
That's
I
so
do
cool.
do complete in 2 hours. So you can imagine the efficiency has increased.
Well, most recently, you were using drones and everything to do this
Yeah.
job, right? So
Yeah.
in 2004, was this technology available to you?
No, not at all. I used to carry a 24-foot ladder on my truck.
That's awesome.
roof.
Wow.
Yeah, it was scary.
So 19 years, like how do you think the industry has changed?
Well, yeah, as you said, I mean, for technology-wise, it has changed dramatically.
Yeah.
Back then, there were no, infrared cameras, infrared, testing materials. There were no drones, so you have to have all manual things to work with.
Yeah.
Now you don't have to climb the roof. If you have the drone, you have the complete picture of the roof, and it makes life much easier. So technology-wise, it has dramatically improved.
Yeah.
However, the number of inspections, if I look back, has dramatically reduced now.
Really?
With the changing of the real estate market. It started changing back in 2008 when the US market crashed.
Yeah, that was a fun
Yeah,
time.
that was exactly. So we had a lull of about 2 months here, no activity whatsoever. But thankfully, Canadian market didn't crash. And then, post-pandemic, the house market was absolutely crazy. The
Yeah.
prices were going through the roof. People were not putting any conditions. They were buying left, right, and center, $100,000, $200,000 over asking, but no inspections.
Yeah,
and
that must
no-
have really affected your
Oh,
business
it
then.
did. Yeah, it did. It did.
So
yeah.
how did you stress the importance of inspection to at least your own network, your own friends and family?
Yes, I did, but of course there were no opportunity for them to include that condition.
Yeah.
Right? It was so crazy. But obviously, I didn't go bankrupt. Thankfully,
You're still in business, so
I'm
that's
still in the
great.
business. So what happened was, of course, the type of inspection I was doing prior to that was changed. So I was doing pre-bid inspections, which means people were calling me before putting an offer.
That's a great
And
idea.
Exactly, that was an absolutely fantastic. And I explained to them, instead of doing a full inspection, because nobody was allocating 2 hours to do the whole inspection, so I would say, okay, just do a walkthrough.
Correct.
Just check the major components.
Yeah.
And then see if that house is fit for you.
Yeah, I really like that because
Yeah.
now
So when I work with sellers, I usually advise too, because buyers feel so much more confident that, okay, the sellers have done the due diligence to make sure their house is in perfect shape.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when buyers propose that inspection conditions, as a seller's agent, I would feel confident saying, here's a report for you to go over.
Yeah.
And these are the things that needed addressing, and we have addressed it.
Exactly.
So would the sellers actually address the issues that you pointed out, or this was just a preliminary for them to have negotiating power?
Oh, it depends actually. The type of inspection that I was talking was the pre-bid. That means the client, potential client, before making an offer, they wanted to get the house tested, checked for bigger items. I mean,
Got it. So the buyers would be hiring you still.
Exactly.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
Now, the other type of inspection that you're talking about is the pre-listing inspection.
Correct.
So before putting the house on the market, the sellers would do a thorough inspection. And answering your question, whether they do rectify all those issues, not necessarily.
Okay.
At least they know that what to expect. Now, of course, if there is something bigger, if it's a deal breaker kind of issue, then obviously they would definitely rectify it.
Yeah.
Present the potential buyer with the certificate that, look, this is done by the professionals and everything is okay now. However, minor things here and there, they would leave off.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, explain to the viewers watching this podcast what would constitute as a minor issue and what could be a potential deal breaker. Because that report that you give it's pretty extensive.
Yeah.
I've had to go through everything to explain to my clients. But give me a general overview. What do you consider minor?
Now, there are actually three types of issues that I categorize. Starting with the minor, then we have critical, and then major.
Okay.
Now, minor issues are, present in almost all houses, even brand new houses.
Yeah.
Which means a minor thing that does not require more than $100, $200, $300 to fix it.
Yeah.
It's not critical, even if that issue is there. Tomorrow it's not gonna.
Does it affect the value of the home?
Exactly. It doesn't affect the value of the home. It's easier to fix.
Yeah.
Doesn't require, a handyman can fix it.
Got it.
Then you have critical issues. Although cost-wise they are also comparable to the minor issues. However, if you leave them, there is a potential for bigger issues to creep up. For example, an electrical issue that needs immediate attention, but the fix is going to cost you $150, for example.
Interesting.
Yeah. An arcing switch, for example, or arcing bulb or something that needs attention. The major issue means that the issue is big in terms of not only cost-wise, but also consequence-wise. So if you don't fix it, you're going to have bigger issues with that,
And give me an example of that kind
For
of issue.
example, a roof, an old roof, which is almost has spent his lifetime, and its potential for leaking. So imagine you have to change the roof itself, but if it leaks,
That's a big
you
expense.
have damage inside as well.
Yeah.
That also needs to be fixed. So you can see the cascading effect of something major.
Yeah.
And of course, then it could be a structural issue.
Yeah.
It could be something, for example, the wiring, electrical wiring. If it's an aluminum wiring, you have to make sure that that is safe. So that's a major issue.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Now with a roof, I know a lot of insurance companies need to know that information right off the bat as well. But there is, varying levels of seriousness of that.
Yes.
Like recently you did an inspection for my client where some of the shingles were missing, and that was due to windstorms.
Correct.
So are you able to look at these roofs and just know how old they are and if they need replacing?
Yes, I do.
Nice.
With over 7,000 inspections that I've done.
Nice.
I can pinpoint with the margin of about a year or two.
That's awesome.
Yeah. However, going back to that incident that we had, missing shingles, I didn't categorize it as a major issue. Remember?
Right. Yeah.
The reason was because the roof's age was not that old, and the rest of the roof was kind of intact. So patching those missing shingles did not cost you much, and hadn't caused any issues so far. So that's why it wasn't a major issue.
Correct. Yeah.
Although it was kind of critical. So because you can't prolong the roof without few shingles missing.
Could lead to bigger issues.
Exactly. Yeah.
The good thing is that, whenever I'm working with a buyer client and if you provide this detailed inspection report, I decide to send it to the seller's agent as well, so the seller and the seller's agent can go through it.
Yeah.
And we just want to have like a very open line of communication, be very transparent.
Yeah.
And when I discussed that shingle roof issue, they were very kind about it, and they agreed to put it in the amendment that they're going to make it.
There you go. Exactly.
They're going to fix it before the closing date. So that was excellent.
Yeah.
A lot of times people think that, this is like a $200, $300 fix, just do it yourself.
Correct.
But then you come across the really good sellers with good conscience and the agents that are able to communicate that this could lead to something major, so let's just do the fix,
Exactly.
And give the buyers a home that is in better condition than they could have provided it.
And also, from the time we do the inspection to the time the new owner takes over, the old sellers are still living in that. So it could be 60 days, 90 days.
Yeah.
And with that condition, there is highly likely that the water may infiltrate through the missing shingles and cause damage.
Say there was a major rainstorm,
Exactly.
it could have some
so
problems.
It's good for them, it's good for the buyer, and everybody's happy.
Yeah, and thankfully your inspection report was able to convey that message to them.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Now, 19 years, you must have seen so many weird things in homes and tried to convince clients yay or nay to pursue the property, right? Because a lot of buyers that work with inspectors, they're kind of new in this home buying process. So how did you develop that confidence to be able to guide these buyers against or for buying a property?
Well, honestly, I try to avoid doing that because it's their decision they have to make.
Yeah.
My duty or job is to explain everything about the house,
Okay.
good or bad, and explain the cost involved to fix if there are issues, and then they have to make the decision.
Got it.
Because tomorrow something goes wrong, if the market crashes and I have pursued them to buy it, they're going to hold me responsible. So I try to explain everything. I answer as much questions as they have about technical and anything, about location, whatever. But then the decision they have to make. Sometimes people would ask me, okay, from 1 to 10, how would you rate this house?
Yeah.
I try not to answer that question too. But because I don't want to break their heart, because when the inspection is happening, that means the buyer has selected this house. This is like this.
There's some emotions involved.
Exactly. So there are emotions involved. So if I say, it's only 4 or 5,
or
so
they say, would you buy this home?
And I've got that questions too. Yeah.
Yep. I think I asked you that question. One of the inspections you did for me last year in Scarborough, that home had some issues.
Yeah.
But the good thing is that I was able to. My client was very trusting of my judgment and your judgment, and they decided that they should pass. They should move on.
So if I were asked about this question, would you buy this house with these conditions? So my answer is that it depends. If I like this area, if I like the house, if I have the money to fix it, I would probably.
Correct.
So if my budget doesn't allow me, then obviously I'll have to pass.
Yeah.
So it's kind of.
Yeah, but the cool thing about your inspection report is that it's so detailed.
Yeah.
That if I say to the sellers, we really like this home, but these are the fixes that need to be made, are you able to do a price negotiation?
Yeah.
I've done that so many times, and it usually works out. So that's the thing we like to advise to our clients, right? Because sometimes some of the colleagues that I've come across in the real estate industry, they feel like the home inspector is against them.
Yeah.
But we have to think about that we're on a team, right?
Exactly.
The real estate agent wants this deal to go through, but the home inspector comes and says, there's this problems with the home. And a lot of buyer's agent would be like, damn it, stop it, I want to do this deal.
Yeah.
But in good conscience, you want to be able to advise your client, yay or nay.
Absolutely.
The last home in Scarborough that we were mentioning, that had some foundation issues.
Correct.
So explain to me more about foundation issues, because I don't think a lot of my buyers understand what that means, but that's one of the major ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
The foundation, it's the word foundation means the whole house is built on that stuff.
Exactly. It's
Whether
expensive.
it's a wooden foundation, a concrete foundation, cinder block, brick, whatever. So that means if something is wrong with the foundation, things wrong with the house itself as well.
Yeah.
So usually we find 2-3 types of problems with the foundation.
Okay.
One is, of course, the cracks.
Yeah.
If it's a very old foundation, it's rubble foundation, for example, that automatically disintegrates over the period of time if you don't keep on maintaining it. Now, going back to the cracks, now the crack has different types, different orientations. So you have to understand whether this is a normal crack, which every house would have, or if it's a structural crack, or it's a foundation crack, a foundation deteriorating crack, foundation failure, so to speak.
So that means it's like a deeper crack.
It's not a deeper crack, it's the orientation that dictates
Interesting.
it, basically. Yeah. So the foundation has to be strong enough and should be able to do what it has to. For example, the infiltration of the water.
Yeah.
One thing, the structure, holding the structure above it, not tipping and all that. So all this is job of the foundation, for example.
Correct. Yeah.
So because it's that job, it makes it the most important aspect of inspection, to make sure that the integrity of the foundation is intact. No unusual cracks are there.
Yeah.
No structural cracks are there. No shifting, no deterioration.
Are there
like that.
fixes to any of these?
There are fixes to everything,
Okay.
to be very honest.
So it's not like the home is useless and you just have to bulldoze over it and build a new one. You can actually fix it.
Well, sometimes that was the good option.
Okay, great.
Honestly
Because I'm
speaking.
thinking, okay, like if the foundation is broken,
Yeah.
how do you fix that? That sounds like a major fix.
Again, depends on what type of house we're talking about, what price
This was
we are
like
getting.
85 years old.
Yeah, so
Almost
if
100 years old, actually.
okay,
Yeah.
So if the price is right, and let's say the $30,000, $40,000 cost to fix the foundation is still
Justified.
better, justified, then you would go that route.
Interesting.
Otherwise,
Okay.
if the price is already higher, then obviously you won't be able to fix that and get a sort of the return that you're trying to.
Absolutely, yeah.
5 years down the road or 10 years down the road.
Yeah, because a lot of times, first-time home buyers especially, they get very nervous about that word, like, oh my God, a foundation issue.
Yeah.
Because there's not enough knowledge out there to explain to them that there are fixes to this.
Yes.
So I'm glad, you're able to explain, because in the beginning, even I thought that, okay, foundation issue, run away. Like, let's just buy something. I'll find you something else.
Okay.
But it's good to know that there are
Yeah,
fixes.
of course.
But some instances, it's just not worth it.
It's
for the amount
cost-wise
of
or
work.
the viability-wise, yes, it's not worth it.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah. What else would constitute a major issue, a major defect?
Usually, any toxic material, presence of toxic material like asbestos, for example.
Or mold. Mold is not toxic, right?
Oh,
Is it
highly toxic, yeah. Depending on which mold we are talking about. There are 100,000, 120,000 molds out there.
Because I have done a couple of mold remediations for the properties that
Yeah.
I was buying.
Yeah.
And I would say it's kind of expensive. I wouldn't say in the 200, 500 range. This cost
No.
me about $2,500 to $4,000.
Again, depending
remediate.
Again, depending on the extent of mold. The cost to remediate
attic.
depends on, Again, also depending on the size of the attic,
Got it.
the extent and the type of mold also. If it's highly toxic, if the area is large, obviously it can run into $5,000, $6,000, $7,000
Wow.
range as well.
Yeah, so that's a major thing.
Yeah, it's a major thing, of course.
Now, are those kinds of things usually, in your experience, the seller's responsibility?
Well, it should be, but there's no hard and fast rule. So the sellers can come back and say, you know what, this is it,
Yeah.
buy it or leave it.
Yeah.
So then the discussion is of the buyers whether they want to go and
Or
they can afford.
renegotiate the price.
Or renegotiate the price, exactly.
So what I found in the last year is that there's a lot of sellers that bought in 2020, 2021. They bypassed the inspections and then now they're selling these homes, and now buyers are, they have some power. They're able to put inspection conditions, and the inspections are showing the presence of mold, severe mold. And the sellers have a little bit of anger towards that because like, well, we didn't check that and we were living in this toxic mold. So now you, and it's just so funny because they decided to bypass the inspections then. And for the past 2 years, they've been living in that home. And they don't want to do those remediations. And the buyers feel like price negotiations are, you know, a better solution to it. So I find that a little bizarre because I know some other parts of North America, maybe Europe, having mold in the house is just like, you can't live in a house like that, right? It's like, it's a very serious concern. So why do you think Canada doesn't have that kind of a hard and fast rule around it?
Well, rules against, around responsibilities?
Correct.
Okay.
Like nobody should be living in a home with mold, in my opinion.
Well, if they decide to. If they decide, it's a free country. If they decide
unfortunately,
So, obviously you can't do that. You can't say that. However, things get changed when the house is being sold. That's when the issue can be, brought up, red flagged, things like that. So that's why they don't interfere with that. People decide to live with asbestos, for example.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So what safety precautions do you take when you're doing this inspection to not inhale or, ingest anything like that?
That's a very good question. To an extent I can. When I go to attics, sometimes in an older home, I try to wear a mask, but asbestos could be anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah, it could be
scary.
in the walls, it could be on the linoleum tiles, any insulation wrapping.
Wow.
And if it's a friable asbestos, which means if you break whatever the material that it contains in, can send out these fibers, which is carcinogen.
So you're doing a very dangerous job.
Yeah.
It's like you're a firefighter almost. You're putting your life in danger.
Oh yeah.
To inspect these homes.
Yeah, I have an incident which still gives me goosebumps. I did an inspection in Brampton. The father-son team was buying the house.
Okay.
It wasn't very old house, but I think built in early 80s. And in the basement, there were some suspicious tiles that I vividly remember telling them that whenever you want to renovate, don't pull these linoleum tiles just right, with the scraper, all that.
Yeah.
Get it tested for asbestos and then hire a professional to remediate that. But they didn't hear me. 2 years down the road, after doing the inspection, the father calls me and he told me that, you remember me? I said, and I have done hundreds more, so I don't remember him, of course. So he told me his name and he told the address. So then obviously I remember. He said, you told me and my son that not to pull these tiles, and we didn't hear you. We didn't listen to you. And we pulled this ourselves. And within 2 years, this guy, the father, had lung cancer.
Oh my God, that is so scary.
That was so scary. And honestly speaking, I was shocked. I was stunned. I didn't have the word what to say. So yeah, sometimes, obviously, maybe 100 times you won't get it, but it's just one time that you will. And that's what you have to be careful about.
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
So people try to save money.
Yeah.
Because the prospect of flipping a home and making that profit is so enticing that they forget the value of their own life.
Safety first.
Just to save money,
Safety first.
That is crazy, and it's so scary.
It is.
And that's why home inspections are so important, because there's a lot of young families, with little kids that are moving to these homes. So as a good realtor, I would never, ever tell my clients to bypass a home inspection.
Absolutely.
And I know there was a time in 2020, 2021 where it was possible to get away with it, but it's just not worth it.
True.
That's just crazy. And also a lot of electrical issues, right? Like old, really, really old electric panels.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit more about that, because I've been in a situation where I was trying to buy an investment property in Niagara Falls and you told me there was knob and tube wiring. And I was like, what is that? And why is it dangerous? So let's dive into that.
Yeah, okay. So knob and tube is, of course, as you said, it's an old type of wiring. So living with the electrical system for about 100 years, we have learned a lot about how to transmit them, how to control them, how to use them, things like that. So knob and tube obviously was used, I would say 70, 80 years ago. And it's considered as, by current standards, unsafe.
Okay.
Okay. And that's why generally the insurance people, they don't
Touch
insure
homes with that.
those homes exactly, which has live knob and tube wiring. And because it's unsafe, people wouldn't be able to do any job on their own, for example, changing a light switch or changing an outlet, which now you can get away with it. Usually they shouldn't be doing anyways. You should hire an licensed electrician.
Damn.
But today's electrical systems are forgiving.
Yeah.
But back then they weren't. So knob and tube definitely is a no-go in any situation now. I come across few houses still with live knob and tube. Sometimes people would change inside the house, but attic would have knob and tube, or some other hidden areas would have
like live knob
so
and
it's
tube.
it's very important to find out if there is any, to make sure. Talking about the electrical panel, obviously they have evolved as well. The type of breakers or fuses that we use, that has evolved over the period of many years. The older type was the fuse based, those round glass fuse based.
Right.
Although back then they were pretty safe, considered as. Now it's an inconvenience. It's you to test which fuse is blown, you have to have an ammeter, you have to have some sort of knowledge about how to test it.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Visually you can't.
Yeah.
So now the circuit breaker panel is much accepted, widely accepted, which is simply a switch that flicks when it blows, and then you have to just flick it back.
Reset it.
Exactly. And now they have a lot of other safety breakers like the AFCIs, arc fault circuit interrupters, GFCIs, ground fault circuit interrupters.
Yeah.
All that to protect the occupant from electrical shock, electrical fires.
And GFCIs are more important in areas where there's water exposure, right? So the
6
kitchens,
feet,
bathrooms, etc. Okay.
Exactly. Outside.
Got it. That's very interesting. Why are new build homes not doing all of those things that they should be doing? Like in an inspection for a brand new home, you will still find some faults.
Yeah.
So why do you think the industry standard for building new homes is not in line with what a home inspector would consider safe?
Well, the standards are there. It's just humans that bypass those.
Friggin' humans.
If you hire a cheap contractor, he may do 4 or 5 correctly, and he has now he has to leave home, or he's hungry. So the 6th one he's going to do is going to be doing a pathetic job. So standards are there. So technically, when the standards are not met by the person who's doing it, that's when the problem is.
But there is no governing body checking, like, oh my God, this is not done up to code, for example.
There is definitely check and balances. Absolutely. Inspectors go, city inspectors go there. Obviously, the city inspectors can't check everything, every house, every electrical connection. For example, if it's an electrical inspector, he can't do that. So he has to randomly check few, and randomly check in 100 house,
like a subdivision of 100 homes or so.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So things can slip through the cracks.
Yeah.
And end up, in my plate, so I find them.
Probably. But after the home is purchased, what are some things that you would recommend home buyers do to keep everything in a safe condition, so to say?
Yeah, there are some regular maintenance things that I always explain to my clients. For example, maintaining the HVAC system, maintaining the windows, maintaining the caulking of the windows, things like that.
Yeah.
So there are a number of suggestions in my report.
Okay.
Besides the issues that I put there. So it's a very informative thing. The problem is nobody reads those.
I do.
Report. I know you do. Some people do, of course.
Yeah.
Most people don't.
It's an education piece to tell the buyers that, we've paid for this inspection, so let's keep it handy for when you are living in the home. as things deteriorate,
Exactly.
this is your guidelines to
Yeah.
see what can be done to make it better.
And I explained them the approximate age of a lot of things. For example,
Yeah.
shingles have their finite life. HVAC system has, things like that. So to be on the lookout when they reach their life expectancy. So they have to make sure that they have the budget to change, for example, an air conditioning
Yeah.
unit or a furnace, service them regularly to
Got it.
extend the life,
So for air conditioning units, there's a growing trend of people renting
Yeah.
from companies such as Reliance. How do you feel about that?
I don't like it because to start with, they are very expensive. Obviously, they have to charge every bit of money.
Yeah, it's like 5-year span, $32 a month. If you look at the cost of that, you might as well save $2,000-$3,000 and buy your own unit.
Absolutely.
But then what Reliance sells is the maintenance, 24/7 availability if something goes wrong.
Yeah, which is fine, which is
Yeah.
good. However, a newer air conditioning usually, doesn't have any issue for a certain period. For the first 5 years, I haven't seen any. Rarely. They do, but rarely. But again, it depends. I mean, again, if you don't have, let's say, a $3,000 budget to change a
And you've
AC,
just
right?
dropped
Exactly,
a big down payment to buy this
and
new
it's
home.
scorching heat outside.
Yeah.
So, what options do you have then?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Exactly.
What other stories, you have to share that can make buyers feel that an inspection is necessary? Not only that, even sellers, right? Because the real estate market in Toronto has been so interesting that I feel like everybody needs to have a good conscience. It's all about like karma. Even the sellers need to have a little bit more, I want to say make a little bit more effort on understanding the age of their home and the implications of selling this, like their home to a young family that might run into trouble. So explain a little bit more based on stories that you have that can make people know this is very important. Let's not bypass.
That's true, and it's a good question.
Yeah.
What it boils down to is the person who's buying.
Yeah.
Their own culture, their own thinking, how they think inspection to be. So some people are completely, oblivious to that. They say, whatever, we'll buy it, and then they face it, whatever. But obviously, educating them, we can't do. This podcast may do some, ripple.
Hopefully, we're able to explain to people.
Yeah.
And I think the realtors that, have a big part of that too.
Exactly.
Because home inspectors would probably come in for one part of the transaction.
Exactly. That's almost the last transaction.
Exactly. So I think the onus is on, real estate agents to educate their buyer clients, especially.
Yeah. Now, as far as the importance is concerned, I mean, when you're buying, let's say, a $3,000 used car, so you want to pay $100, $200 to the mechanic to see if everything is okay, the big things, the safety things. So we're talking about $1 million house or
so what's
close to $1 million.
$400, $500
Exactly.
to check that asset?
So
potential
if
asset.
nothing comes up in the inspection, you still gain a lot of knowledge about the house, because I always go at the end and give them an overview and show them where the shut-off valves are, show them what maintenance needs to be done.
True.
Physically take them to the issues and explain the criticality of the issue, the magnitude of the issue, the cost to fix all that. So homeowners who are buying, the buyers, go with, good amount of knowledge about the house. They feel comfortable.
Yeah.
They feel confident rather.
Yeah, because a
buying the
lot of
property.
these people are like moving from condos to homes.
Yeah.
They have no idea what a shut-off valve is,
Exactly.
for example. I didn't. So that's a lot of education that's necessary.
Yeah, and that's the only time I can give them this education. So
Yeah.
once they see firsthand, then the most common comment that I say, "Oh, really? It's pretty detailed, and we gained, a lot of knowledge about the house, and we are much confident now." For example, the second last house I inspected, the buyer was kind of jittery. He said, "You got to check the garage because 11 years ago the garage had caught fire, so it's insurance claims and all that.
Got it.
So make sure that nothing is wrong with the garage and all that. So I said, of course, why not? I'll put more extra effort to check that part of the house for sure. So when I went there, the garage had a separate roof and it has a separate attic space as well. So after checking everything, and I went to the attic above the garage, it was pristine, brand new. So I asked the potential buyer to climb up the ladder, and see for himself.
That's amazing.
And amazingly, his wife also climbed up. I was scared.
So they were safe.
And he said, wow, it looks new. So
That's
I'm now very
amazing.
confident buying this house. So, things like that. So
That's
it's
interesting.
Very important,
So buyers come on inspection day and see the stuff with you?
Well, I want them to
Got it.
tag along so that they know firsthand what I'm checking. And if they have any questions, concerns, I can address them.
That's a
right
great
then and
idea.
there.
Maybe I should also invite my buyers to come
Absolutely,
along the
yeah.
next time.
Yeah.
That's
Because
awesome.
seeing is believing, right?
Yeah.
So when you talk to them on phone or something, they say, I don't know whether
Well,
he
I
did
would
or
think
didn't."
you would be annoyed. Like, let me do my job. I'll explain to you the report later. Like, that's why I didn't offer my buyers to come the last time.
No, I know.
You
and
need your
that's
space,
true.
right?
Some people do become kind of too
Annoying?
intrusive. No, I'm not going to use that word. Too intrusive to tag along. So because
Yeah.
I have to follow a sequence, right? From
Fair.
1 to, let's say, 100 or
Yeah,
1,000,
yeah,
for
yeah.
example. So I get distracted a little bit. But I tell them that everything I'm going to tell you at the end of the process. So let me go through it while you check the house. It's 2 hours there. You can measure your sofas or rooms and plan to decorate whatever way you want while I'm checking the house. And then let's talk at the end of it. As many questions you have, I'll be more than happy to, answer all them.
It's pretty interesting. What other things do you think realtors need to know while educating their clients?
The first and foremost is the importance of the inspection, to be very honest. The rest of the stuff you guys are very well aware of and
We try.
do a good
Yeah.
job. Yeah. So, but this fact, I personally have experienced that a lot of realtors don't pay any stress, or let's say don't put any stress of getting the inspection done.
Correct.
So they say, yeah, it's up to you, whatever you want to do it.
Yeah.
Explain to them at least, this is very important. The money involved in it is not big, but the result outweighs by a big margin.
Yeah, and I have firsthand experience because before I became a realtor, I ended up buying a property in Scarborough with another realtor, and my realtor kind of at that time pushed me to bypass the inspection. And that was a big lesson because after I got that property, I discovered so many issues, and this was, I think, the second property I bought, but I wasn't prepared for all of the issues that came up, right? Like there was plumbing issues. So there was actually like a tree right outside the house and the roots were in the plumbing.
Yeah.
So every 2 days I needed a plumber to
clean the drain out.
It was crazy.
I know.
And the panel, there was a 100 amp panel, but there was too many appliances on that one panel. So
Keep tripping.
things would, yeah, exactly. And also there was a leak in the basement that wasn't addressed. So it cost me a lot of time, money, angst, just frustration.
Frustration alone is...
And also, like, once I was able to speak to a couple of contractors on these fixes, they told me, because they were also real estate investors, they told me if you had done the inspection, the results would have allowed you to renegotiate the price because you overpaid for this property. Right? So I bought the property for $620,000, but considering all the issues that I had to address, I could have gotten away with offering maybe $560,000, $570,000. That was the extent, about $50,000 to do the work.
Wow.
So after that experience, after going through it myself, I can never recommend a buyer to bypass inspection because I know what I went through.
Yeah.
I hated it so much that I just left. I'm like, I'm just going to move to another home.
Yeah.
Did the fixes, put a tenant in. And I just left because it just left a bad taste in my mouth, that entire process. And then, after the deal is done, the realtors don't have any obligation, right?
Exactly.
So they did their thing. They convinced me to buy the property, but they didn't want to help in the aftermath of what I was dealing with.
Right.
So I will never, ever be in that situation again, thankfully.
Yeah, exactly. Now I can understand the mentality not to force the inspection.
Yeah.
Because you guys work a lot, you work hard to bring the whole deal up to
That
the
point.
where it could go south or north.
Correct. Yeah.
A lot of people don't want to take that chance. But to be very honest, it's not that. I mean, if you explain your client properly, if I explain the issues properly, most of the people will end up buying the property.
Yeah.
Unless there is a dramatic, issue or something out of the world issue. Normally people would say they liked it, they liked the area, everything is okay. That's why the situation is up to that point.
Correct. Yeah.
So then, it's just that they need to be educated, they need to be advised, they need to know, the buyer need to know the expense part.
Yeah.
And some people say, you know what, this is minor for me. A lot of times I have gotten that comment as well. So if I'm explaining an issue, say, don't worry about that, this is minor.
Amazing.
See? So,
Yeah, and who doesn't love to renegotiate on the price?
Absolutely.
Like it's a great way to renegotiate.
That also, absolutely,
I love doing that.
It becomes a tool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Harpreet, what else? I'm running out of.
You're running out of these. You're doing really good.
We did well. 1250.
Yeah, I like the conversation. Maybe to wrap it up, we can hear from Manzur some really good tips for people, some things final things they want to remember, maybe why they should hire a home inspector, and then I think we should end it with Manzur dropping his contact information where they can find you, and
Okay.
I think. What do you think, Salwa?
Yeah, I think that's a good plan. So Manzur, wrapping up, give us a little bit of tips. When buyers go with me on showings, what should we keep an eye out for?
Well, as far as inspection is concerned,
Correct. I mean, we're always going to hire you for an inspection anyways.
Yeah.
But if we were to feel like, okay, this looks like a very old home, but it has good bones.
Correct.
What constitutes a home having good bones?
well, of course, the first thing is visually looking at the house. If it's very old, sometimes you will see it's tipping. If it has a chimney, it's slanting, things like that.
Interesting.
The overall facade, if it's bricks, if the bricks have a lot of popped surfaces,
Interesting.
that would be a big no. So that's the first impression.
Right.
Other than that, I mean, you can, from the outside, you can look at the roof condition. If the shingle seems, proper, it looks clean, no edges curling up, no erosion, no discoloration of the shingles, you can assume that it's in kind of okay shape. But of course, it's difficult to sometimes pinpoint that.
Yeah.
Even sometimes a 15-year-old roof wouldn't show any age-related
Really?
issue to a common eye.
Got it. But you will know.
But I will know you exactly. And once you go inside, obviously, the smell sometimes in the basement tells you
I
a
can
story.
smell
If it's a
mold
muggy,
now.
exactly. Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, so that's, there you go. So
I
that
had
means,
no idea what that smelled like before, but after seeing the number of properties that I did, even before I became a realtor, I could tell that.
It's kind of musky
Yeah,
odor.
definitely.
Look for that. Look for condition of the windows just by passing, looking at them. Sometimes it's just single pane windows, meaning that they are very old.
Yeah. No energy
look for-
conservation happening there. Yeah.
Exactly. Look for the ceilings, if there are any stains, water leak stains,
Right.
unusual repair marks done. All that could be a potential issue. So, and probably that's because you can't go into the attic. That's very important.
I wouldn't
aspect.
want
If
to.
it's
I'll hire
an
you
old,
for that.
If it's an old house,
Yeah.
you can have horror stories. in there. So
I wouldn't try.
So look for these kinds of what do you call it, superficial things.
Awesome.
And then decide whether.
That's very informative. Thank you so much for sharing all this information. Now, where can my viewers find you? Email, phone, if you can share your info?
Absolutely. My phone number is 416-315-1792. You can reach me here.
I'll add that in the description for sure.
And my website is www.inspectech-services.com.
Awesome.
So
I'll share
even
that
if you
too.
skip the dash in between, Inspectech and Services still works. So
Amazing.
Both, yeah.
That's awesome.
And email is, of course, Manzur, Manzur, at
Perfect.
inspectech-services.com.
We will share that. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
If you have any more questions about why inspections are important, send us a DM, comment below, and any other topics you would like me to discuss, share in the comments as well.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, anytime. You can watch my podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, anywhere you can listen to podcasts. Please take a listen and leave us a 5-star rating. Thank you.
Please do.